Building a business case for Microsoft Project Online. Um, I just want to put a couple disclosures out there. So, Trusted IT Group, that's the name of our organization. Trusted IT Group did not conduct or sponsor this total economic impact of Microsoft Office 365 PPM report. This is a presentation of the content along with a description of how the ROI was calculated. So I don't want to take credit for putting together this case study that we're going to be talking about. This was sponsored by Microsoft, done by Forrester, distributed, all over the world. You probably saw emails about it. Maybe you got it from our website. Maybe I passed it along to you. Maybe you got it from someone else. What I'm trying to do is basically reverse engineer it and talk to you about it because, in the past year since this has been brought out, we've actually helped out a couple organizations come up with their cost benefit analysis by using this. Some of the organizations that we helped were out in Europe. Some of them were over here in the United States. And the content really helps if we're able to talk about it a little bit. All right, so let's get into agenda. So what are we here to talk about? So first, we're going to do a little bit of introduction. Since this is January, I would definitely like to have the opportunity to reintroduce who Trusted IT Group is, what we do, and then we'll get right into the case study. And then we'll kind of explain a little bit what that case study is all about and how Forrester came up with it. After that, then we're going to talk about the financial model that they use to come up with this ROI and the payback period of this Microsoft PPM investment. So we're going to go through 8 different financial models, 4 for benefits and 4 for costs. Oh, actually 9, because then if we put them all together, that's a whole nother one. And at the very end of the presentation, I want to show you this ROI calculator that we created in Excel that if you want this for yourself, if you need to do cost benefit analysis, then definitely send me an email afterwards. I'd like to schedule a meeting with you, explain to you how to use the ROI calculator, and I'll definitely save a couple minutes at the end just so I can flash it and show you the different tabs and what it consists of. Great. So who are we and how do we help? So the name of the organization is Trusted IT Group. We're a gold Microsoft PPM partner comprised of thought leaders in the project and portfolio management space. We really like to focus on 3 specific areas of this industry. The first one is thought leadership. The second one is Microsoft PPM solutions and services. And the third one is application support. So let's just talk about that really, really quickly. So when we talk about thought leadership, just something that I would like everyone to know, if you follow us on social media channels, if you subscribe to our email list, which is probably how you got this webinar link, we aggregate a lot of content and we distribute it out from the Microsoft community, from the PPM community. We definitely like to share that information. We're constantly presenting at local, national, and international Microsoft events, PMI events. We do monthly webinars, so definitely, keep an eye for that. If you go onto our website, www.trusteditgroup.com, you'll see downloads for case studies and white papers. We have apps for you to download. We developed for Project Server, actually, a mobile device, a mobile app, so that you can keep track of things. And then we also record videos, we make videos, we share them all over the place. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here, but I do want to introduce a little bit about who we are and what we do, and I'll send this to you afterwards. So we help out in solutions and services. So from implementation of Microsoft PPM that we'll talk about in a little bit, from a quick deployment, a 3-day configuration wizard deployment is one of the solutions that we can get you guys started with, or a long, custom solution. And I say long because we're going to talk about that as part of the implementation process in the case study that Forrester talked about. Some of the other areas are Microsoft Project integration solutions, whether you're trying to integrate agile tools to your Microsoft PPM environment, or ERP tools, or finance tools, sales tools, etc. We help in making that the Microsoft PPM solution kind of the center of truth, along with business intelligence reports, from Excel reports to custom web reports. We definitely help you understand all your data and make sense of it. And on the other side, the services is we provide a managed services, which is basically the reoccurring maintenance of Microsoft Project, along with 24/7 help desk support. I can send you some more information if you're interested about that, along with the typical Microsoft Project training workshops and PPM and OCM coaching. Again, just wanted to touch upon this. We could probably spend a whole nother day just talking about this. Okay, now that all that formality stuff is out of the way, let's just get into the content. So what are we talking about over here? Office 365 PPM. So Forrester did this case study about organizations that are leveraging Office 365 and Project Online together. Basically, it comes in 4 different levels if you want to think about it in terms of this. So level 1, team members can update their tasks, their risks, their issues, documents, all while taking advantage of the built-in Office 365 collaboration capabilities, such as Skype for Business. So we'll show you on how that actually helped out and a lot of the benefits for project visibility. Level 2, it helps out with the resource management capabilities. It allows for optimal capacity planning and tracking. So, resource management is an absolute benefit from having this PPM solution, especially if you didn't have a PPM solution in place. And there's a lot of organizations that we're helping out to kind of get their PMO set up. So project managers also get this deep scheduling with issues and risk management. They get the project financials and reporting support, and it's all done through the web and delivered through the cloud. You can also sync up your desktop client that you probably are using day in and day out to the web so that you can stay productive no matter where you are. And then level 4 at the top, Microsoft PPM provides PMOs with the visibility into project portfolios across the enterprise. So this is kind of an overview into the solution that Forrester was talking about. Just to kind of give you an understanding of how popular Microsoft Project is. Now they're talking about the desktop application. So they're saying that there's over 20 million users that are using Microsoft Project. The copy is sold every 20 seconds. 20 million users in over 10,000 organizations, and it's a leader in analyst report. I mean, this is important when we're talking about user adoption, and this is something that's very important with this Forrester case study. Even though they didn't specifically write about this in this particular case study, I just wanted to take a moment and talk about the familiarity. Sorry, that's a hard word to get out sometimes. The fact that people are familiar with this software, with this tool, makes it easier for people to use and for just to get up and running fast. When you introduce a new tool to people, there sometimes the rate of adoption is kind of slower adopted, and we're going to talk about that as some of the assumptions. Okay, so let's talk about the Forrester TEI approach. And the TEI stands for the total economic impact. So here's how Forrester went about the case study. So first and foremost, what they did was they had to perform the due diligence. So the due diligence was they had to interview the Microsoft marketing folks, the Microsoft sales folks, consulting personnel, along with Forrester analysts. This is what they consider the due diligence, and I'm sure that when you're doing your cost-benefit analysis, you're also doing your due diligence. Probably this is part of your due diligence. The second step is that they conducted customer interviews. Now this is really important to focus on right now, because what they did was they interviewed 4 organizations currently using Microsoft Office 365 PPM to obtain the data with respects to costs, benefits, and risks. However, before they interviewed those 4 organizations, they actually selected 45 organizations from all over the world to understand, what's important to them when looking for a PPM solution. So going back to this step 2 over here is that they interviewed based on costs, benefits, and risks. Keep that in mind, because what we're going to do is in the financial modeling, we're going to take a look at the costs, the benefits, and the risks as per this Forrester TEI approach. Okay, step 3, and this is really cool. So what they did was they designed a composite company. So they started with 45 companies, right? Just imagine that at the very top of the funnel. And then what they did was they trimmed it down to 4 that shows, really good, organizational size. And then what they did was they took those 4, they interviewed them on the cost, the benefits, and risks, and then they made averages out of them. And then they took those 4 and kind of meshed them into one design that they call the composite company. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. And number 4 is they constructed the financial model, and we'll talk about that, of course, and that's where the majority of the presentation is actually going to be. And so we're going to talk about how they constructed the financial model representative of the interviews using the TEI methodology. And last but not least, they had to write the case study. So Forrester employed 4 fundamental elements in TEI modeling the Microsoft Office 365 PPM service. So they put into consideration the benefits, the costs, the flexibility, and risks. Cool. Okay, so let's take a look at this, because here what we're going to see is the top priorities for introducing a PPM solution. Now, remember just a moment ago how I was saying that Forrester started with 45 companies that they interviewed. So this is the results from this 45 organizational interview. So basically what they did was they said, what are the top priorities for introducing a PPM solution? Let's forget about Microsoft PPM. This could be any PPM solution, because believe it or not, there's a lot of organizations out there, large organizations, that don't have a PPM solution in place. And there could be a lot of reasons why they don't have it, organizational, culture or something like that. They're using Excel for one thing. They're using, they're documenting their issues and risks in, Dropbox or something like that. And there's things kind of scattered all over the place. So 47%, the majority of everyone, says that they're looking to improve operational efficiency in managing the projects. So by putting everything into one PPM solution, you can assume that you're going to have this operational efficiency. After that, the next biggest one is gaining visibility into project performance over here at 13%. So again, by having a PPM solution, what you'll see is you have a lot of visibility into project performance, just like it says, and we're going to touch upon some of the areas, not all of them, but some of the areas where you can gain this visibility to give you this greater project performance. And then of course we have the improved resource management and the improve the business agility and scalability. Those are all important, but the main one is everyone's trying to be more operationally efficient. So then they said, okay, great, so we know that you want to use a PPM solution. And again, I'm talking to those organizations that don't currently have one right now. So they said, so why would you want Office 365 PPM? And again, the main one is gaining visibility into project performance through better reporting. Now, that's, I have to be honest, it's kind of broad. It's kind of broad because that doesn't really speak to the Office 365 capabilities. However, the next one, which is coming in very, very close to 44%, is that they wanted to leverage the synergies with Office 365. So again, you have your and I would love, for everyone to stay afterwards so I can show you guys the demo. But basically, integration out of the box with Skype for Business. You need to know what someone's doing, your project manager, your team member, colleague. You just go to your resource center. I'll show you all this later. You go to your resource center. I actually have a screenshot of this. And you could hover over their name. It will show you who's available to chat to. You could do this, chat. You can get a video chat going. So there's a lot of synergies that you can get. Skype for Business is really just one of them. And then ease of scalability with business growth. What's so interesting about Office 365 PPM, or let's just talk about cloud. One of the really, really, really interesting things about the cloud, and we did a presentation on this a couple months ago, basically talking about how even the small organizations, you don't have to be a Fortune 500 company, even the small organizations that have the ability to access the same tools that the large organizations are doing. Doesn't matter if you're a Fortune 50 company, if you're, a startup that has this opportunity to use the same tools some of the larger companies, and then as you grow, you just add a license to it, and then you get more people onto there, and you don't ever have to worry about buying infrastructure or anything like that. As you grow, this solution grows with you. I mean, that's a great scalability factor, and we'll definitely talk about that in a second. And of course, the improved resource management capabilities. I'm only going to touch on these four because, again, we could probably spend a whole nother webinar just on this particularly. But, assuming that you don't have a PPM solution, you're kind of scrambling to figure out who's available, who's not available. Can you match people by the skill set? So I'm going to show you how all that is actually translated into, dollars and cents over here, and we'll have a good conversation about it. Cool. So let's talk about the interviews. So we started with 45 companies, and then we kind of funneled down to 4. Well, I won't say we, but Forrester. Forrester funneled down to 4 companies. Here's who they are. Well, not who they are, but what they are. So first one was a global technology hardware manufacturer. They had 8,200 employees, 12 billion in annual revenue. The organization had 7,500 projects being managed by 1,000 project managers currently using Office 365 PPM. Second one, a multinational energy conglomerate. Again, huge numbers over here. 37,000 employees, 44 billion in revenue. And a small implementation of Office 365 PPM is leading the way for the organization to build off of. And I think this is really important to mention when we get to the implementation costs, because you can start small or you can go big. And we're going to kind of explain what are the different options over there, and that could really help out with some of the costs. So again, they had 100 projects that are being managed on an annual basis, and they have 6 PMs. The third one is a national energy service provider, 5,000 employees, 3.6 billion in revenue, and it has 500 users and 100 PMs that are using Office 365 PPM. So again, large organizations are in the cloud right now, And last but not least, an international nonprofit organization. So this organization is focused on writing grants for world issues it deems appropriate. And they use this Office 365 PPM to manage this grant process. And, it's a smaller sample size than what we've seen before. So they have 1,500 employees, 90 PMs, and averages around 100 projects per year. Okay, so now let's kind of think about it. So they took these 4 and they kind of crushed it into one, and they made this composite company. Now this composite company is so crucial when we're talking about this business case, because this is where all the assumptions are based out of, and we'll talk about what the assumptions are in just a minute. So first, So there's 4 components that make up this composite company, and this is where the, kind of the numbers come from. So number 1, we're going to assume that our, fake company, composite company, is a multinational company with 3.5 billion in revenue. Number 2, we're going to assume it has 5,000 employees. Number 3, we're going to assume it has 500 Microsoft Office 365 PPM users with 100 project managers. Now, don't think too hard about what these numbers mean. I did all that for you. So I just want you to sit back and just watch. And number 4, it manages 300 projects per year at an average cost of $150,000 per project. Okay, so here's the assumptions. And this is where we start to get into some of the math. And I'm going to explain what these are, and we'll kick it off. I hope I didn't lose you guys yet. So on the left-hand side, we have the metrics. On the right-hand side, we have the values. So we're going to assume, now this is where all of our financial modeling is really based off of. So we're going to assume that hours per week, it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 40 hours per week. We're going to assume that there's 50 weeks per year because we're giving people 2 weeks off. We're going to assume that there's 2,000 hours per year. The average hourly PM rate blended, the high range, the low range, everything, all their packages, everything is fully loaded. We're going to assume average $50 per hour. And the average hourly labor rate, again, blended, fully loaded, $42 per hour. We're going to assume that these projects per year is 300 projects per year. Average budget per project, like we just said, is $150K. Now, this is super important because this could be the rise or the fall of any new solution, is the adoption. So Forrester says, based on their interviews, they're assuming that the user adoption in the first year is 35%. Will your organization have a higher adoption? I sure hope so, because the higher adoption, the more ROI you get quicker. However, we're just going to be conservative, and you can even lower these numbers. I have this Excel sheet already plotted out for you to just go ahead and plug and play all sorts of numbers. I can't wait to show you guys later. So adoption year 1, we're going to assume 35%. Adoption year 2, we're going to assume 55%. And adoption year 3, we're going to assume 70%. Now, we could talk about what will help with the adoption until we're blue in the face. So, we could talk about that offline. All right, so let's get into our first of 8 calculations over here. So the biggest benefits. So first, these next 4 slides are going to be about benefits. So the biggest benefit that Forrester reported was reduced project budget overruns. And if you take a look at this little caption, what they wrote is, through the increased visibility into project performance, PMs were able to remediate issues much faster and ensure projects were completed on time and under budget. Now, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking that, this could be kind of skewed because we're going to assume that this might have been for an organization that didn't have a PPM solution at all. But maybe you did have a PPM solution and it just wasn't enhanced enough. Maybe it wasn't updated, and so there's a lot of factors that are going to go into here. And some of the reasons that you could see increased visibility into the project performance, especially with this Office 365 integration, is the ability to use Skype for Business. So as you can see right here, here's a screenshot from the Resource Center. And, if I wanted to see what Dan Norkin is doing right now, I just go see if he's online, if he's in the resource pool, and I would be able to chat with him. As you can see right here, we have an icon for to chat to him. We can call, we could do a video chat, etc. So, if you see that there's something going on, you can instantly contact the person. You don't have to, you don't have to send emails, call, who knows, but even if they're in different locations, different buildings, you could still communicate with them. Another thing that could probably help out with the visibility into project performance is, this visualization of the workflow stage gates. Now, some organizations may have it, some organizations may not. So, I know from the attendees that we have over here that there's kind of like a wide range of maturity levels. So some organizations have it, some don't. But by having this type of workflow visibility, you'll get to know exactly where you are in the life cycle of the project. So if something's held up, you'll know exactly where it is and what the reason is. So another reason, and this is probably the most obvious, so increased visibility through project performance is you have this project center. This is the central repository of all the different projects that are going on in your organization, given the fact that you'll have, the access to view these projects. Well, that's a whole nother story. But if you have access to view the projects, you could do all sorts of views and filters so that you could see important information and really quick reporting. So, okay, first math problem. Remember, this is our benefits. So what Forrester said during these interviews is that these companies, on average, this composite company, right? So we're going to talk about this composite company, saw a 5% reduction in projects going over budget. So if you assume that your project, if you assume that your average budget is about 150K per year, what they said was, oh yeah, no, well, we were able to see some of these issues before they actually happen. And if the project lasted longer, it obviously costed more money. So we were able to fix these issues faster because of all these different enhancements and workflows and visibilities and ability to integrate. So what they were able to see is obviously in the initial year, let's just talk about that for a second. So we have a couple columns on here. We have the initial column. The initial column is basically when you buy it. So when you buy it, you're not really using the solution just yet. So you don't see any reduced project budget overruns. You will see that in the first year and the second year and the third year. And notice that as the adoption rate grows, you'll start to see higher numbers in benefits. So one thing that we want to also keep in mind is that Forrester recommended that you have the risk at 10% adjusted. So there's a lot of flexibility into these numbers, and I'll show you in the Excel spreadsheet how you can change the risk number. So what we did was we basically said, well, not every company is the same, so we're going to assume a risk of 10%. And that's how we came about this calculation right here. Okay. So next, another benefit that organizations has seen is an increased PM performance in project throughput. And this is kind of interesting because we don't really consider how much time we spend on for example, building reports. I know that there's a lot of organizations out there that kind of have their report game on lockdown, and they understand the importance of good quality reports and being able to get data quick and fast and making good decisions. But not everyone's there. We kind of all have different cultures. We have different experiences. So what they saw is that prior to Office 365 PPM, the project managers were spending about 45 minutes every week producing time summary plans and other milestone reports. So obviously with Office 365 PPM, these reports can be generated in seconds, saving an average of 39 hours per project per PM per year. So just talking about some of the report solutions that are available out there that are, you know, very, very popular. We have, you know, SQL Server reporting services. So for example, you create this report that you want, and it automatically distributes it in an email out to whoever that you want in the distribution group, and you have it. You don't have to spend this time building these reports. Power BI, another really, really, really popular Microsoft-centric reporting pack. There's a lot of neat reporting packs out there. We have a managed services reporting pack. I would love to show you guys another time. There's a marquee Power BI report that has, you know, just tons and tons of, you know, reports built, ready to go. Basically, you know, you pay the subscription, you're up and running in 15 minutes with everything that you need. You don't have to spend this time compiling all these different reports. And then, of course, we have everyone's favorite Excel report. This is basically an Excel services report. This is just an example. If you went back in time exactly a year ago, we did a presentation on the ultimate matrix, and this is a screenshot from that presentation. So if you want to know a little bit more about what this particular report is, it's really, really cool. It's part of our PMI presentation on large-scale ERP deployments. I definitely encourage you to go to our website, trustitgroup.com, go to the video section, and you'll definitely see it there. Okay, so what's the whole point about this? The whole point about this is have people stop building reports and actually doing the work. That's the main thing to take away from the screen. So let's talk about the calculations over here. So we're going to assume that there's 100 project managers, that they're saving 39 hours per year. Now this number, you can change this 14% in the Excel sheet that I'm gonna show you guys, and you're free to change as much as you want. So if you want to be more conservative, you can take a 5% increase in projects that you're gonna do. But Forrester said, on average, we are going to increase our project throughput 14% by not spending time doing other miscellaneous things. For example, building reports. So, you know, and we're going to take our average hourly PM rate. You got your $50 right there, $50 per hour. Adoption percentage. Again, the adoption percentage can be varied by organization. We'll talk about some of the things that can be done for that. You know, I'm just going to touch upon that. But basically, initially, you're not going to see anything, right? You're going to be spending money. You're not going to see anything. That's why this is all about the return on investment. I don't know if anybody watches Silicon Valley, but I always like to say radio on internet for ROI. I don't know if anyone's going to catch that. If anyone catches that joke, I would love to see you chat in that and say that you understand where I'm coming from. So again, first year, you could see the benefits of 502,000 all the way up to $1 million. And these numbers really vary based on your particular organization. Again, I can't stress it enough. I have this spreadsheet that you can, you know, play around with the numbers and make it more realistic to fit your particular organization. Improved resource management. So again, for those organizations that may not have a PPM solution, and you're trying to figure out who's available, who's not available, you might have a large resource pool. You might have to go through, you know, 50 people, 100 people, thousands of people just to pick who's available. So what they did was basically, as a result, 1 second. No, I'm sorry, I can't give you control just yet. But if you have any questions, please stay for the very end, and we'll definitely unmute you and we'll talk. So as a result, the composite organization saw a 13% increase in resource productivity due to having a better aligned skill sets on projects, as well as 25 hours of project delay reductions due to resource unavailability. I don't know if you've ever had this situation where you're basically, you know, trying to put a task with a resource, and that resource isn't available. Now you're scrambling to see who's available. And I don't know, you might have to go over to the cubicle and see if they're available. Are they out? Are they on vacation? Are they busy with another project? It's kind of hard unless you have the right, you know, tools to help you do this kind of thing. So just showing you a couple screenshots over here. This is a screenshot from the capacity planning module, basically showing you some of the remaining availability and some of the skill set matching. I think this is a really neat thing to talk about for just a second. So Microsoft PPM allows you to build a schedule with generic resources built into the project plan. So let's say that you had a project called, let's say that you're doing an infrastructure deployment project, for example. And every single time that you do this project, it's the same tasks, it's the same milestone, you need the same skill set on each task. Maybe for the first phase, you're going to need a bunch of engineers. And then for the second phase, you're going to need a bunch of analysts, for example. And then, so as you can see right here, we have the product engineer checked off. So when you build this project, when you go create this new project, the project plan comes up with the task. This is a schedule template with the resource there, with the generic resource there, the product engineer. And very simply, you could just go into the resource planning, resource capacity module and just select the product engineer. You press the match button and it automatically looks through the resource pool to see who is, who's assigned that particular role of the product engineer. So again, you're going to have your resource pool configured the right way to have this type of information, but it can be done and it saves a lot of time. So talking about the formula behind all this, so what they saw is a 13% in reduction in project labor costs. In the next line, what we're going to assume is that the average labor cost per project is 40% of the average project cost. So if we know from the assumptions that the average project cost is 150K, then 40% of that is 60K. And again, I took this into account when we did the Excel spreadsheet. So you can adjust the average labor cost per project by just changing the percentage, just to play different scenarios out there. And then of course, you can calculate how many hours that you saved and avoiding project delays. Unfortunately, there's no secret calculation for that. You're going to have to go ahead and take a look into, you have to have maybe some meetings with some project managers, resource managers, portfolio managers, and kind of understand how many hours are you going to save for this. And then of course you do this with every single project. So it's 300 projects per year. You take your average hourly labor rate, and then again, there's that adoption percentage. And then, you see benefits. This is, dollars and cents, 836K as per the Forrester TEI report in the first year. Obviously nothing in the initial year because you're, putting out money, but then you'll get that back, and we'll talk about the payback period. That's important. All right. So again, I'm not going to spend too much time on these calculations. I just want to talk about the different components. I definitely encourage you to reach out to me afterwards so that we can talk about it and plug in numbers that make sense to you. Infrastructure cost avoidance. Now this is the elephant in the room right here, because if you have an on-premise solution, Forrester is saying that a $400,000 investment was going to be required in order to upgrade the system to the later version. In addition, the Composite organization was spending $80,000 each year to maintain the infrastructure and support the software. So let's just talk about this for just 1 second. So the way that Forrester did this report and Microsoft did this report is that they assumed that the organizations that were interviewed, these 4, might have had an on-premise server PPM solution. So if there was a $400,000 investment that was going to be required, obviously getting rid of this investment is a huge, huge benefit. And let's see how that looks like. So here you go. Here's finally something that we see in the initial year. So in the initial year, you're doing your software upgrade avoidance. So that 400K We're going to assume that it's 400K. It might be more, it might be less, depending on your organization. But let's say to upgrade to the newest, let's just say the newest project server, right? Because there's an option. Do you go to Project Online or do you go to Project Server 2016? If you decide not to go to Project Server 2016 and you decide to go to Project Online, I'm speaking specifically to this fork in the road, you can literally take that $400,000 and put it right back into your pocket by just avoiding it. So we're gonna, risk adjusted by 10%, just like we do with most of them. So, on average, you'll see 360K. Again, this is for larger organizations. If you had a smaller organization, this number will most likely be smaller, and you could tweak it based on however you feel like it. And then year 1, year 2, year 3. So, if you're spending $80,000 every year just in maintenance and infrastructure savings, again, that 80K right back into your pocket. You could use that 80K for so many other things within the organization. Security and compliance savings, 100K. So there's security patches that always needs to be done to the infrastructure world. Again, Project Online, or just stay with Project Online for a second. There is never a need to upgrade it because you always get the newest upgrade every single time that it's released. Now I always hear the same question. Well, what if there's a new feature or there's an upgrade that happens and our organization is on Project Online and we are super configured and we don't know what the impact of this new upgrade or this new feature is going to do? Well, it's okay because the admins will actually get a notification whether they want to turn on that new feature or not. So you could do your due diligence before you turn it on. And, again, we're all about saving money over here. So infrastructure cost avoidance, you can definitely see where's the benefit with that. Okay, so now that we went through all the benefits, let's get into probably everyone's least favorite part, the costs. So we have software licensing fees. Now, at the time that Forrester did this, they did this report a year ago. The software licensing has changed. So I just want to take a couple minutes and just talk about this. I think it's really important for everyone to understand the differences. There's some differences, some subtle, some larger. So let's talk about it. So Forrester TEI report said that their composite organization had a combination of licenses, including 10% Project Pro, 20% PMs, but that 20% is Project Online license, and 70% light users. So there's two important things that we should talk about. The first thing is that notice how the largest percentage is the light users. So not everybody is going to need to have the full out Project Online license. The majority of these organizations have licenses for team members to be able to get their task notifications, update their tasks, go submit some issues, go submit some risks, update your documents, and that's it. And that's the majority of how we see these licenses being distributed, and Forrester definitely agrees with that. So when they're talking about 70% of light users, if you take a look at the left side with this pricing table, the pricing table is this new SKUs, is the new licenses. Microsoft calls them SKUs. Everyone that has purchased anything from Microsoft understands SKUs. So the Project Online Essentials license, what you see there for $7 a month, per user per month, that's the equivalent to the light user. It used to be Project Lite, Project Online Lite, now it's Project Online Essentials. Again, lets you update tasks, issues risks, submit timesheets, share documents, collaborate with Skype for Business, etc. So it's just very good for collaboration purposes. However, Project Online Professional license, you no longer need to buy Project Pro Desktop anymore. Project Online Professional for $30 comes with the desktop application automatically. It gives you everything except for the ability to run portfolio selection and optimization, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And then you have the Project Online Premium license for $55. that gives you everything, the ability to go into the portfolio analysis optimization, demand management, enterprise resource management, the works. So again, the numbers that you see here is the numbers that's listed on the website. I'm sure that everyone that's attending here has an enterprise agreement with Microsoft, has a Microsoft account manager. If you don't know who your account manager is or your project solution specialist, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to provide an introduction. We work with a lot of Microsoft reps, and they could definitely talk to you about the type of licensing fees that's specific to your organization, the calculation behind it. So this is straight up. This is very simple. You have your licensing fees. You have your number of users. This is all per year. Software licensing fee with the 5% risk adjusted. Now, Forrester accounted for the different discounts that you can get with Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, so they, adjusted it by 5% of the risk factor. So what they're considering is that the average was somewhere around $10.30 per user per month, and that's how we came up with this $64K at the risk adjustment. So again, pretty straightforward here with the software licensing costs. I just want to be focused of time right here. It's 3:48 Eastern time. Okay, implementation costs. Obviously, anyone that knows me knows that this is probably my favorite topic over here. So implementation costs. So this could be probably one of the biggest costs that is a hurdle that we need to work through over here. So what Forrester said is, in addition to internal implementation costs, professional services were purchased to help develop reporting and configure the software to the organization's specific requirements, as well as assist in change management. So this implementation cost that we're going to talk about puts into account, right, if you work with a vendor, this vendor is going to probably sell you the configuration of the software. They're probably going to, some training, some support, some change management, some on-site assistance afterwards. That's all bundled into what you're about to see. However, I do want to let you know that in order to combat some of these costs, we have this Project Online Configuration Wizard, which is basically a 3-day deployment. It's dramatically lower than the number that you're about to see what Forrester quoted. The number that Forrester quoted is more of aligned with a custom Project Online deployment. And the reason why I say, it's such a long custom deployment is because Forrester says that on average, PPM deployments to these large organizations could be anywhere between 6 to 9 months. You do your math on that. So that could be really expensive. Okay, so let's talk about that. And that's why we came up with the Project Online Configuration Wizard. It's a very low fee. It gets you up and running really fast. Basically start off slow, and then you can grow as the requirements grow. Or if you decide to go for the home run, you can always go with a custom Project Online deployment. So don't take it from me. Take it from Forrester. I didn't fudge with these numbers at all. I'm just letting you know what Forrester said. So Forrester said that, so they put some of their internal FTEs. So this is, an organization. This is your organization internal FTEs. So you put 6 people to help out with the vendor to help implement this. You're going to need to do acceptance testing, and you're going to need to do requirements gathering and the whole works, right? It could take anywhere from 6 to 8 months. So Forrester said, let's just do an 8-month deployment, 2,000 hours per year. So, we did some calculations on the back end with the average hourly FTE rate with the internal labor cost. So then, along with the professional services would be that bucket that I quoted before, which includes, the implementation, the training, the support, all this stuff. They're saying on average probably cost you $500K, depending on the level of granularity or the type of enhancements that we're looking to do. And then every year after that, you're looking to do another $100K in enhancements or something like that. So if you ask me, I didn't want to mess with this, but if you ask me, in year 1, year 2, and year 3, you probably need to add some more FTE numbers on there, some internal FTE numbers. You probably want to add some months onto there, because if you have the professional services firm at the end of the year 1 do another 100K, so then that means that probably some of your internal FTEs are actually going to be working on this project, on this enhancements project, versus working on a project that they could be doing for the organization. So that needs to be accounted for. So if you ask me, Forrester kind of missed the mark on this one, but you can always go ahead and put that into the ROI calculator that I'm going to provide to you. Okay, so again, initial year, boom, 990K, big investment, big investment. So let's see how you can get your money back on that. So change management costs. Again, this is part of the whole adoption percentage. The bulk of the change management training, material development, and the training and the communication, it took over a 9-month period in the first year. There's a lot of things that you could do to kind of get the awareness of this new PPM solution. The tool is only as good as the people that use it. So if you have this big, $1 million investment of this new solution, which is supposed to take you to the promised land, and if no one's using it, then what good is it really? So some of the change management costs, we'll talk about that. And again, this is something that, if you ask me, I think the Forrester should have added something in year 2 and in year 3, especially if there's going to be additional enhancements that we're assuming, the 100K in the previous slide. We should probably assume that there's something in year 2 and year 3. But again, I didn't want to mess with the numbers. I'm just reporting back to you on what Forrester was talking about. So here you go. There's nothing at the time of the initial purchase of the change management costs. However, at the end of the first year, you can see if you have 6 FTEs that are working for 9 months, basically in parallel with this solution deployment, to kind of communicate this out, start to internally market it, internally sell it, you're getting around 495K. So an internal training cost. So we spoke about the professional services, that some that 500K package could include training and on-site support and all that stuff, but we also need to consider the cost for your organization to get those internal team members to stop working on their projects and come and sit in a room for half a day and learn. And that's what we're talking about over here. So again, the light users, this is Project Essentials users, required about 4 hours of formal in-class training, while power users like PMs, typically around a 3-day training, 24 hours, and we see that also, so I would concur that those numbers are pretty on par. So again, here's the calculation on that. I want to save some time. I'm just being conscious of the time over here. Here's the calculation on the internal training costs. Again, you'll have this all for your own purposes. So let's put it all together. Man, we just went through like 8 grueling formulas over here. So obviously this ROI calculation is not the only part of a cost benefit analysis. There could be other parts to it. You're going to need to do an executive summary. You probably are going to need to do a problem statement. You'll probably need to put in a current solution assessment. You might even need to put in a PMO process assessment. But this cost benefit analysis, this is what we're talking about over here. So if you put it all together, here's how the report looks like. So let's start at the beginning. So the initial year, your costs, you're probably looking to spend, well, this composite organization, I don't know why I keep saying you. Let's talk about this particular composite organization. This composite organization spent $1.2 million initially, boom, off the bat. And they got only $360,000 in the benefits. Remember, that came from not using the infrastructure avoidance. So the net benefits off the first year, you're bleeding. You're in the red. This composite organization felt negative $900 cash flow. $900,000 cash flow. However, in the first year, at the end of the first year, once the adoption starts to pick up and things start to move, that's where you see your costs go down and your benefits start to rise. The more people that use it is the more people that you could start to get some of this PM throughput and increased visibility and resource management and all these, time savings, and time equals money. So that's where you can start to see that. And if you notice, between the initial payment, the negative 900K, to the first year, 1.6 mil, we go positive. So the payback period, you can assume, is within the first year that you're going to start to see these benefits coming back to you. And according to this Forrester report, you'll see it in somewhere around 6 months, as you can see right here. So again, if you want to calculate the present value, we have all that already put into you in this financial calculator. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And while I have you guys on the line right now, and I don't think that too many people drop, let me basically show you what this ROI calculator looks like, so that you'll be able to use it on your own afterwards. So here's the assumptions that you enter your own numbers, and it changes numbers in all these different tabs. So for example, we're taking a look at the total benefits. The total benefits is the screen that we were just looking at. When you put in your own numbers, you can change the ROI. And you can see all these formulas are all baked in. So you can change all sorts of different numbers, reduce project budget overruns. I do want to show you, I color coded this so that you know what's a formula. If it's gray, don't touch it. You might mess it up. If it's an assumption, then it's blue. So don't touch this, because you just want to mess with it in the assumptions over here. And these are the numbers that you can change on your own. So feel free, send me an email, info@trusteditgroup.com, and let me know if you want a copy of the presentation. Let me know if you're gonna want the ROI calculator. I definitely would love to set up a meeting with you, go over it with you, kind of talk about what are some of the challenges and how I can help you out. And thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate everyone's time.